Ahoy, everyone! This is David Eugene Perry, and very, very happy to be in the Zoom room with a fellow author, and also, we'll talk a little bit about it, a fellow schoolmate from many years past, another hometown author from Richmond, Virginia. Please welcome to the Zoom room, author E.G. Kardos. E.G., how are you?
I'm doing great, David. I appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation.
Well, now, two things. I'm probably going to irritate you because your nom de plume is E.G. Kardos, but of course, when we were at a little school called Benedictine Military Institute many, many years ago, you went by Eddie. I don't know if your friends still call you Eddie or not.
They do. My friends call me Eddie, and my business colleagues will call me Ed. But as far as my books, I go by E.G. Kardos. So you can pick one out of.
I'll pick you. Well, we'll talk about Eddie, but then we'll tell people, of course, to find your book, E.G. Kardos. So for people who didn't have the benefit of growing up with you in that wonderful southern town, Richmond, Virginia, tell our listeners and our viewers a little bit about your history and how you came to be an author of multiple books. I'm actually jealous. You have become quite prolific as an author.
Well, thank you, David. Well, writing has always been something that has been important to me. I've always wanted to be express myself, and I've done that over the years in music, in acting, in writing, and I feel that my writing is far superior to my days of music and my days of acting. But writing has been a wonderful opportunity for me to express myself and to stay creative over all of these years. But I would like to say, I'd like to mention this to you. It's a little story. You talk about my days growing up. I really had a horrible experience, I guess, in third grade. I guess it was 9 or 10 years old. And I was always a slow reader, not a great reader. I always wanted to read. I loved reading, but I just remember this one particular time in third grade that the English teacher said, open your books. We're going to each read a paragraph. And in those days, all the desks are lined up one after the other. So we all knew that we were going to read a paragraph one after the other. And I sat there and I started to sweat a little bit. And I counted, how many kids were before me. So I knew exactly what paragraph I would be reading. And so I would spend my time just making sure in my head, trying to get that paragraph correct. And But what happened this particular day, when it was my turn to start reading, I was stumbling. I wasn't doing very well. And I just remembered that the teacher, at the top of her lungs, she just said, stop. And boy, all the eyes shot up to her, including mine. And I didn't know what to think of this. And so it was very, very quiet, and I could hear her walking, her high heels clicking against the floor, coming down and hovering over me. And she said, I taught your older sister, didn't I? And I said, yes. And I believe I taught your brother. And I said, yes. And she said at that moment, she said, you are nothing like them. And so, oh my gosh, I thought to myself, this is just horrifying. And so from that moment on, I told myself, I never want to be in a position where someone labels me that way and judges me in any particular way. So I've always worked very, very hard at everything I've tried to accomplish, and that would include reading and writing and everything else that I've tried to do along the way.
Well, it sounds like we both had seminal experiences in third grade. I remember my third grade teacher, Sister Julian, Benedictine nun, made me become fascinated in words when she read to us out loud every day from C.S. Lewis's The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And I think at that point is when I realized I wanted to become a writer, but it sounds like your third grade experience was just as formative, but from the other side, not encouraging.
That's correct. Yeah, that's and that's unfortunate, but that's, one of those life experiences that stick in your head. And all these years later, I remember it. And but in a way, it's that negative motivation that I don't particularly appreciate, but it is still a part of me. And I think we are the sum of our experiences, and that was one that was very very important, I guess, in my life.
So let's talk now about the new book, Cutting of Harp Strings. Tell us, without giving away the plot, what was the inspiration for it, and where does it fit within the whole universe that you have created as a writer?
Yeah, that's a great question. The inspiration for that book, or for this book, is a little bit more from a spiritual side of things. It doesn't come from one specific event or a particular person or something like I just explained or shared with you about the teacher, because I've had a number of really great teachers and role models since then. But I guess the inspiration for this story comes from what I consider the beauty that we all possess. And sometimes I think it takes a digging deeper and deeper into ourselves to find that beauty. And I'm not talking about commercial beauty and all of those kinds of things, but the beauty that is really at the core of who we are, the beauty in nature. And I think over the years, just like the story I shared with you, society and folks have a way of heaping things upon us. And sometimes we have to peel back that layer to find that beauty. And so the inspiration for this story came from peeling back those layers to find the beauty that's in all of us. And so that's how I describe the inspiration for this particular story.
So as far as the plot then, take us through your characters and who is the main character, and how is that character reflective of who Eddie/E.G. Kardos is?
Oh, well, all of the characters that we write about have some sort of tie-in to ourselves or to folks that we know, because we should write about our experiences in what's close to us. But Eli is the main character, and the story is about Eli, and he tells the story of his 17-year-old self, and he talks about a particular time in his life that his very preordained and very planned out life really is upended by someone that he meets that changes everything, and so that, as I said, that preordained path he has taken is all of a sudden out the window, and it's the unfolding of this relationship, and it culminates. Well, I don't want to give away too much, but it's about that friendship that they build together, and I feel it's a very powerful friendship, a very unique story.
And this book is which in the legacy, the story of Eli? This is the third book, correct?
No. This is a standalone. This is the first book. This is not a series. This book I first started writing something like 27 years ago, And
Oh
so
my.
it's had a number of iterations, and have, but so it's a kind of a labor of love, and I'm very pleased that it's out and for folks to take a look at and to enjoy and to appreciate.
Well, let's talk about the other books you've written, because you have been writing a series of books. How did those inform cutting the harp strings, and how do you see this new book fitting into your whole body of work? Where you said you've been working on this for 27 years. So when you were writing the other ones, this one must have been in your mind. So it must have influenced the other of your books as well, I would think.
Yeah, it has. However, the series that you're referring to is called the Elias Chronicles. There's a book 1 and a book 2. The Amulet, Journey to Sirach, is the first book, and the second book, book 2, of course, is The Rings, Journey Beneath Sirach. And I'm working on the third book in that trilogy. That series is a fantasy series, and it's focused on some similar themes. However, it's the theme of the first book is focused on being true to yourself. And Elias, very similar name. I can see where you could.
Yeah, that's why I apologize. It's like I
Yeah.
see a theme here, or I hear a theme.
No, well, I guess I do. I just like that name, or variations of that name, and so that series I enjoy writing. It's very, very different. It's a very different audience. It allows me to build worlds and to escape our reality, so to speak, and jump into these other worlds where Elias, in that case, is fighting dragons and things like that, whereas Eli, in this book, in Cutting of Harp Strings, is really learning more about himself, on pulling back those layers to really determine who he is, where he should really, how he should really live his life, and who he should share his life with. One of the things that I mentioned in Cutting of Harp Strings is I talk in terms of chasing dreams, and when we chase our dreams, or when we chase a dream, we better make sure it is our dream that we're chasing and not someone else's. In the same concept of, if we're going to live our lives, we need to live our lives and not live the life that someone else has preordained for us. And so that's where there is some commonality between the two. But I will say this about Cutting of Harp Strings, is that I view this as literary fiction, in that it's really focused on, it's very character driven, and I use symbolism to really tell the story, and I leave a lot of the interpretation up to the reader. So the reader, I have been told, folks who have had an opportunity to read this, they'll say, gosh, they feel that they're right there with the characters and experiencing the same things that they're experiencing. So it's, as far as genre, it's not fantasy, it's not romance, it's not horror, it's not science fiction, it's none of those. It's none of those. It's more of like I said, a character-driven novel, and focus on a lot of conflicting issues that we all face, and this is showing how Eli is dealing with that one particular year in his life.
So we only have a few minutes left, but I want to ask you two questions. One, and they're kind of the same question. Having both been born and raised in or near Richmond, Virginia, how does that place that has gone through so much change over the last 2 years and evolution impact your writing, and specifically this book? And then even more specifically, the experience that you and I shared for several years when we were both at Benedictine Military Institute, a Catholic military school, which a lot of people who I've spoken to over the years say, I don't understand that at all. And I was like, well, it was a unique time and place. I was a cadet captain, and as I recall, you were a major, correct?
Well, I was a captain as well.
You were captain, so Captain Kardos and Captain Perry. How did that experience of being a Richmonder and also being a cadet influence your writing and influence this book? Was Eli a cadet?
Eli could have very well have been a cadet. His roommate, Aiden, however, I don't think would have made it through a year at Benedictine. And so there you have the two main characters thrown together, and what they learn from each other. And I think that's where that story takes off and where it continues. And I think that's the same thing with, as you mentioned, growing up and going to a school like Benedictine. I sometimes scratch my head right now and I think, oh my gosh, how does that institution really exist? And how did it exist? And how did I even make it through there? But I do draw quite a bit from that experience. The fictional school is a boarding school, but however, it is a Catholic school. And so, but I use that only as a backdrop. I don't want people to think, oh, I went to a Catholic school, and so I'm going to see a lot of things there that I experienced. It's more about the relationship of the two young men. And if I could, I don't know, it sounds like we are running out of time, but
no, I'm hoping if you're going to read a segment, that would be wonderful.
Well, what I'd like to do, it's similar to reading a segment, but as you recall, I'm a slow reader. But no, I would like to mention, folks have asked me about the title and what does the title really mean? And so I would like to share that with you, and I'd like to share the story that goes with the title.
Please do.
Cutting of Harp Strings comes from a Zen koan. And to paraphrase the story, it's about two friends. One friend who is masterful and skillful at playing the harp, and the second friend who is masterful and as far as attentive and enjoying the music that his friend is playing. And so when the friend that plays the harp, as he plays, the other friend can see the mountains before him. And as he continues to play the harp, his friend can see the river that's in front of him. So the beautiful music that the one friend makes by playing the harp, the other is right there with him. And but when the friend that listens dies, the friend that plays the harp cuts the harp strings never to play again. And so just in that title, it tells us that this relationship is considered probably the most intimate and most endearing friendship two people can have. And so the title, without giving it away, the story, it's about the two friends, Eli and Aiden. And so, people will ask me about the title, and that is actually done in a much nicer way. The story is built in to the prose, and so, but it's a very meaningful story to me, and it's one that I think others would enjoy reading as well.
Well, there is a wonderful meditative musicality about your writing, and reading about Eli and Aidan is very beautiful. I'm enjoying it, and having enjoyed your two previous books, the fantasy series, which now is going to have a third. I guess you're going to become Richmond's Tolkien. You're going to have the Lord of the Rings by the time we're finished. There is this beautiful spiritual theme throughout all of your writing. So I appreciate that, certainly, as a writer, and I'm sure our readers will as well. In closing, any closing thoughts that you would like your readers to take away from specifically Cutting the Harp Strings, or about you as a writer and what you hope to achieve with your work?
Well, we've talked about quite a bit, and I do, like I said, I appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation. But I invite those listening to also explore finding the beauty in themselves and in nature, and exploring themselves deeper. I really feel that folks that would enjoy these kinds of stories, I do feel like this would be something that would resonate with a lot of readers out there, and I would encourage folks who do pick up the book and read it to let me know what you think of it. I'm easily found on my website and my email, so I'd love to hear what you think of the book, and I hope you share it with other folks that you would think would appreciate this kind of a story.
Well, it's been wonderful speaking with you, known to your readers and people around the world who buy your books as E.G. Kardos. To me, 40 years ago, Captain Kardos, Eddie. It's a pleasure speaking with you, and since it looks like we will be in Richmond, Virginia sometime soon, maybe we'll get a chance to actually say hello, which I believe will be the first time in person in, 30, 40 years.
Yes, there will be. I look forward to that, and I should at least show the cover of the book, and there it is, and I hope to hear from folks in the future, and David, I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to seeing you in person very soon.
A great pleasure. So this is David Eugene Perry signing off. Please pick up Cutting the Harp Strings and look for the other books online by E.G. Kardos. This is David Eugene Perry. Ahoy.